Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Monday Night Tours. I'm your guy, Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by Kyle Hoagland. What's going on, buddy?
Just two dudes with attitudes. What's going on, everybody?
That's right, and we're here to break down the Monday Night Wars this week, September 25th, 1995. And what a week it was. We started out here in Nitro, live from Florence, South Carolina, and you wouldn't know that if you watched the show. I actually had to do some research afterwards.
They're very inconsistent with telling you, like, either they say it at the beginning or a lot of times they'll have, like, a little graphic that'll say what city they're in. I think they did it for Miami, and they definitely talked about Miami a lot. And I think here's the thing. You had the Mall of America, which was a big spot. Then you had Miami, Florida. Big city, you know, obviously touristy city. And then it's like Johnson City or Johnsonville or whatever
Johnson
it was.
City, Tennessee, and now Florence, South Carolina. Less advertising here. And
they are staying south of the Mason-Dixon for sure. Other than the Mall of America. And then on that they've been holding it down south.
This arena seemed smaller to me too, the venue that they held. It just looked very different. Was it just me, or was it just kind of the way the arena itself set up? It just did not feel like a Nitro arena.
You know what? I'll pull a Haddox and say I wasn't paying attention to that.
Okay.
And I like I said, I mean the set and everything looked like normal, but I guess if you look at it from the crowd, especially comparing to last week, I agree. Because I would say Johnson City, I mean they got the big arena there.
Yes, right. This just felt a little bit smaller to me. But we open up the show. Pepe is here to open up the show, so good to see him right away. Pepe watch ended early as he shows up, and he's wearing a saddle, which the now late Bobby Heenan, R.A.P. Bobby Heenan, because
for sure, man. That's
That's
like probably one of the saddest wrestling deaths, especially because the last probably 10 years of his life, I'm sure, have just been absolutely terrible for him.
And it couldn't have been much better for him sitting beside Steve Mongo McMichael. But here we are anyways. And he makes a comment about Pepe being a 4-pound tarantula that everyone wants to ride, which was kind of a bizarre
But Heenan, you get a pass because you passed away this weekend.
There you go. And they did show the Nitro opening, which, Kyle, you made a comment. I didn't catch it, but Vader was removed from it. Did you want to make any comment further on that?
I assumed at some point that they were going to have to remove him, and I think that just kind of puts to bed that he's no longer with the company, that it's no longer a storyline of him not signing his papers to be in the match. And we'll talk. Vader will actually show up later on in the show, but he's replaced with Luger, and not even with like more up to date. This is like Luger 92, 93 when he was in WCW. If you kind of look at it, it's not like new footage of Luger. It's old WCW, like video roll of him.
Whatever they had on their video scopes in the back.
God damn it, Macho Man.
Opening match, though, we get the debut of Disco Inferno matching up against Alex Wright, which, for those of you who may have watched Nitro towards the later years, of course, they become a tag team together. What are they, like the dancing?
The Boogie Nights.
Was that their tag team name? I thought they had a different, the Dancing Fools or something like that.
I mean, maybe at some point, but no, Boogie Nights, I'm near certain, was like their more recognizable name. They might have been Dancing Fools somewhere, but Boogie Nights was their name.
Okay. I gotta say, Alex Wright had some god-awful music. It was supposed to be like German techno, but it was really, really bad techno. Like, at first, when the announcers are talking, the music started, I didn't realize that was his music. I thought it was just some, like, generic, like, music they were playing while they were talking. And then I realized it was his...
I think that's always been his music, though. I think that's never changed until he became Berlin. Spoiler alert. But I think that's always been his music.
It is awful. Unlike Disco Inferno, who has disco fever, and while the announcing crew, the commentary, are trying to bury it as awful music because, disco, nobody likes disco. I love that. I love that theme music. I was digging it.
It's one of the few wrestlers where I feel like they nailed the theme music at the start. Like this could stay for the rest of his angle for sure.
Right. Absolutely. That said, the match, it was a solid match for the two of them, an opening match. My biggest comment, I think, about the match is Mongo, again, trying to bury Monday Night Football, which is so strange to me, because why do you have the football player be the one to do it? I guess because if it's a football player saying football sucks, then okay, maybe football sucks compared to this. But he makes a comment that says, everyone knows the 49ers will win, so why bother watching? Spoiler alert, the 49ers will actually go on to lose that day against the Detroit Lions 27-24. It would be the Lions' first win of the season and the Niners' first loss. So it sounds like it was a hell of a game to watch if you tuned into Monday Night Football.
I just found it very funny that they're not only trying to ruin Raw, they're trying to spoil endings for NFL games now too.
Whatever they can spoil, right? That said, I still love Alex Wright's dropkicks. I don't remember enjoying Alex Wright the first go around as much as I am this run right now. Like in 2017, me watching with nostalgia glasses on or off, whatever the case may be, really liking what I'm seeing out of Alex Wright, and I kind of hated him, I think, back in the day. I thought Disco looked a little overweight here, Kyle. I don't know about you. To me, he looked like a little fatter in the face, didn't look very toned. Kind of looked a little slow, to be honest. But they did say that he was handling Alex Wright like no one has ever seen. Like they've never seen him handle before, which seemed like high praise until you realize that this is their go-to statement for the rest of the show. Apparently everybody is handling so-and-so like they've never been handled before. It becomes kind of a cliched thing. But ultimately, the biggest surprise for me in this match, they won with Alex, right?
You can't even remember the name of the move because no one ever wins with a backslide.
He won with the backslide. Alex Wright wins with a
my
backslide.
brain almost exploded when I saw someone win with a I've never seen on TV someone win with a backslide, and this got an extra star for me just because of the backslide ending.
It was one of those things, like you see the backslide, you just kind of look down because you're like, oh, here comes the 2 count, and it's like 3, and I'm like, what? He won with a backslide? Literally, like you said, might have been the first time in history anyone's won with a backslide. Ultimately, though, it's still going to be a 2-star match for me. I just thought it was a little sloppy, and I thought Disco was a little flat overall.
Yeah, I mean, Disco was what it is. And plus, here's the thing. I don't think Disco ever really had the body. I think he's always been a little bit of like maybe like...
Well, he's not a freak. And next to Alex Wright, who I think is in phenomenal shape, he's going to look a little bit worse. But I just thought he just looked a little, I don't know, fat. And it just didn't look like the Disco I know. I probably wouldn't have thought twice about it if this is the first time I saw Disco Inferno or something, but he just looked a little chunky in the face.
I feel like he's always been chunky in the face, though. Maybe he did lose a little weight later on. I don't know. Maybe you're right. But as far as the stars in this match or whatever, I did want to give one other thing about the match. Like, there was one where Disco was trying to get to the top rope, and literally it took him what seemed like half the match to climb to the top rope.
It's because he's chunky, dude. He just can't do it.
Dude can't get his own weight up. But I gave it 2.5 stars, and the only reason why it's a 2-star match. I gave it the half star because of the backslide. I don't think we're ever going to see a backslide. Mark it down now. Episode 4. I don't think we'll ever see a backslide victory.
In the Monday Night, the next 6 years of the Monday Night Wars, 1 backslide victory. There's a good chance that if you would ask me the over under, I would have taken the under, and here we are already at 1. So we'll have to see.
I think this is the last one. So yeah, 2.5 stars, and also because we know ahead of time what Alex Wright and Disco will be together. Just a force to be reckoned with. Once again, up there with the phenomenal the New Age Outlaws, the Road Warriors, and all. Boogie Nights is going to be right up there too, with Dick and Bunkhouse Buck.
Absolutely. After this, we got a Hogan promo, so it's good to see that the Hulkster is alive, though he's in a neck brace, and he looks completely hilarious in a neck brace.
He does.
It just looks so weird on him.
It looks like 2 neck braces.
Yeah, it's very strange, but fear not, even in the neck brace, he's working out daily, which I feel like is not a good idea. If you're in a neck brace and you were almost paralyzed, he was talking about his limbs. He started feeling like his nerves and his limbs were going out from him. I wouldn't be like hitting the gym up daily, days later.
I also especially wouldn't be deadlifting the world title on my neck.
Yeah, that was also bizarre.
Yeah, it was.
Jimmy Hart having him do that. That was a little funny. But he's talking about the Giant, and he's talking about how he's going to build a bigger monster truck than the Giant. So for whatever reason, we're getting into a car battle now. And he challenges the Giant to a world title match as well as a monster truck match of some sort. And then tells the Giant he's going to lay him to rest in Detroit next to where he laid his father to rest. So, Kyle, kudos to you who called out the Andre the Giant shout-out last week. It's definitely apparent now that, they're referring to WrestleMania 3 when he, in front of 1 million people in the Silverdome, brother, he body-slammed Andre the Giant. And,
in Pontiac, Michigan, by the way, not Detroit.
Right. Well, he called out Detroit this time, so... that's about all I got to add. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that promo, but that's the gist of it. Hogan in a neck brace is entertaining.
I actually forgot that Giant had a monster truck because that was part of that promo where he destroys Hogan's bike.
Motorcycle. Yep.
Yeah, so I guess that makes sense. And I know we'll talk about it later. The promo was hilarious, but we'll talk about that when it gets to it. But yeah, they're definitely. I think now it's much more obvious that this is they're billing the Giant as the progeny of Andre the Giant, and I'm looking forward to it because I feel like God damn it, the Big Show, Paul White, the Giant, is still pretty new, and I think they're just trying to ride the lightning of Hogan and Andre to have like this part 2 of it. So
definitely trying to relive that.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to what comes of that, and obviously this is something that's going to make a lot of money.
Right. Next we got a in-ring promo with Mean Gene and the Macho Man. They open up by recapping what happened last week with Luger and Macho Man, where Luger said that Macho's jealous of him. And, Macho Man says Luger cheap shot at him during Fall Brawl. So they start talking about that. Luger comes out in his ring attire this time, not wearing the blouse and black jeans like he's accustomed to, and tells him that he's not getting the respect he deserves. And him and Macho, he says, you know what, Macho Man, I'm going to put my number 1 contendership for that world title on the line against you next weekend, Nitro. And on top of that, if I lose, I'm going to leave the WCW. So... Luger just throwing it all out there right away. Not even giving the Macho, the number 1 contendership might have been enough. Literally, he might have just said, hey, do you want to have a match? Because I felt like last week they were just going to have a match. And now he's just throwing out all these additional stipulations for no reason. So,
hey, that's the confidence of Luger. That's what I'm
saying.
And here's the thing. I'm near certain Luger, I don't know what the outcome of that is. I don't remember Luger ever coming back to the WWE. So,
right.
Spoiler, I don't think Luger's going anywhere.
No. It'll be interesting to see, though. So that match gets set up for Nitro. Only other thing to note, they do not... Macho Man reaches his hand up for a handshake, and Luger does not take it, so...
He does like a weird... He gets him by the shoulders.
Yeah, it's sort of like a shoulder
away.
Bump, rub, hug thing. It was weird.
Yeah.
Next, we got the Machine vs. Machine Halloween Havoc promo, Kyle, that you were referring to, where Hulk Hogan and the Giant basically anamorph into monster trucks. And I guess that's what the monster trucks are going to look like. I don't know.
He said they're working on building it, and then there's a picture of it. I'm like, oh God, please tell me they already have built it, and that is exactly what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So we'll have to see at Halloween Havoc what that all entails. Next up, though, we got our match: Kurosawa, who's joined by Colonel Parker, versus Sergeant Craig Pittman. And Kyle, I'm going to let you break down this match because I'm sure you were thoroughly entertained by it.
No, but anyways. So, for those who don't know who Kurosawa is, you're not alone. I've never heard of him until
I was going to say, does that include me? Because I do not remember this guy.
So, if you ever remembered, watching the live action Ninja Turtle movies back from the 80s, this guy looked like he would be like a badass foot soldier. This is like the look of it. He kind of looked like a gang member that was also a ninja. Obviously, he looked perfect next to the Colonel. I feel like that they definitely they matched well. And Sergeant Pittman, for those of you who have ever seen him, he's basically Black Sergeant Slaughter. And except Sergeant Slaughter is actually a good wrestler.
And a much better promo.
Yeah, much better promo. I mean, here's the thing about Pittman. I think he had maybe 3 moves in this whole match, and the majority of it was him doing these weird junkyard dog headbutts.
They were like diving headbutts or something. It was strange.
I think Junkyard Dog would do it. He did it like on his knees, and he would like run on his knees and his hands and do headbutts. I believe
it's kind of like a battering ram dive headbutt. But
right,
was really describing it does not do justice to how bizarre it looked in person or on camera.
Not to mention, it doesn't look like in reality, in practicality, they wouldn't be that effective either. But whatever. But anyway, so Kurosawa kicks Pittman in the chest hard enough, sends him flying over the top rope because kicks do that to people. There's a point where there's a spot where Kurosawa is supposed to do a baseball slide. He, instead of like keeping his legs together and going to the side, he does it like on his back, and he like opens his legs. Like he kind of like spreads his legs open. He does not hit Pittman at all, but Pittman still sells it, which I thought was horrible.
Yeah, common theme.
And then I think the match after that got a little bit better. So Kurosawa, being the heel apparently of this, he exposes the bare floor, which is cement, and he does like a suplex slam, like kind of on his back, which I was like, oh, that was a good spot. That was a cool move.
I always think those cement spots are so painful looking, even if they're like completely not. I'll pop for a good cement spot.
Right, because I feel like anything can go wrong once you actually take away the protection. And then I think Mongo at some point like talks about football again and his Bears. Once again,
for a guy that's burying football, he loves bringing up football a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Then I thought what was really weird was so he exposes the floor, gives and hits him in the back, like the lower back, and then never goes back to working on the back again, and instead works on the arm of I want to say Sergeant Pittman. And then I found out later it's because he actually had a match with Hawk of the Road Warriors, and he actually broke Hawk's arm. So I think they're trying to sell the whole, he has the ability, he works on people's arms. He's trying to injure people. And then at some point he's trying to do a move, and Pittman kind of heaves him over the top rope, and the guy lands on the outside. And Bischoff mentions something along the lines of like, oh, it looks like the ref is going to let that slide. And for those who don't know the history of WCW, there was a point where if you like deliberately threw somebody over the very top rope, over the third rope, that was a disqualification. Or if you jumped off the top rope to the floor, that was a disqualification. Like you could not do anything involving over the top rope to the floor. And I guess they said they were going to let it go. I'm hoping that that's what happens from here on out. This is now regular. This is now television. This is no longer like syndicated. Whatever. This is now live television. Let that rule go. I really hope that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, eventually the rule goes. It's so dumb. I thought by '95 this rule was gone, but the fact that Bischoff calls it out leads me to believe it's not officially done. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious now to see like when it actually does go for good. Apparently not by this point, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that going forward.
But I could have sworn that people have been clotheslining people over the top, or maybe, and I don't know if clotheslining.
Yeah, it's so. The other thing about this rule is there's so many caveats to it, and
there's legalities to it, and
basically it's just like one of those like, do we want to is it booked this way that it's a disqualification in this particular match? If not, then every time it happens, we're going to say, oh, he put himself over the top, so it doesn't count, or they let it slide. All this bullshit.
Yeah, like it wasn't deliberate or something like that. So the end of the match, which by the way, Pittman, you could tell, is not a very seasoned wrestler. He's very stiff, very slow. His kit, as you will, his moveset is very, very, very limited. But they do kind of say that Pittman usually is a dominant person in the ring. So it seems like he has a much more of a better win-loss record than maybe we think. Ultimately, he gets hit with a German suplex, not a belly to back with a bridge. That is not what happened. Bischoff.
Hey, at least he didn't say what a maneuver.
That's true. And Kurosawa gets the win, and whatever, 1.5 stars. Would have been 2 if the actual wrestling was a little bit better. There was a couple nice spots with the cement and working in the arm and a few outside throws. Kurosawa definitely was a much better wrestler and definitely carried Pittman throughout the whole match.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it 2 myself, but I'm not going to fight you at 1.5. It was not a very good match.
No.
After that, we got another Mean Gene in the ring promo, not with Ric Flair actually, but instead with Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. And they're
dead guy alert also in here. I mean, let's put it this way: we know there's going to be dead people on for a while on these shows.
Right. They're discussing that maybe there's some collusion between the two of them against Ric Flair, and that's why Arn beat Flair at Fall Brawl. And basically now it kind of seems like Ric Flair is being booked as a face now in this thing. Arn kind of cutting a heel promo, and they're
Pillman definitely cut a heel promo as well.
Yeah, Pillman definitely did. And so now those two, it looks like there's some sort of tag match in the future. They're saying Flair can't find a partner, so at some point, maybe on Saturday night, they showed Flair trying to get Sting, and I think they maybe mentioned Luger and a couple other people he was trying to get as a partner. So be curious to see who the fourth man is going to be in this eventual tag team match. The only other thing I got to mention, Brian Pillman is wearing the Canadian tuxedo or the all denim outfit, and he's got a black fanny pack to rock it all out. So it is a fantastically 90s attire. Really, really, really rocking it well there, Pillman.
I feel like this. I call this the Hart Dungeon street clothing. Like whenever Bret Hart wasn't in a match or Davey Boy Smith, this is what they would be wearing.
Maybe it was called Canadian tuxedo for a reason. There's the Canadians just love that stuff.
Hey man, fanny packs became cool, and then they stopped, and then they became cool in Canada.
Right. Then after that, we got a WCW Saturday Night promo. Dusty Rhodes now a co-host for the show. The United States Championship match, Sting versus Johnny B. Bad. So it's good to see that Johnny B. Bad's finally going to get that title match. I have a feeling he's not going to win it, though, after he jobbed to Mr. Wonderful last week on Nitro. Then we got the new Tag Team Champions, American Males. So apparently that match with Harlem Heat last week stuck, and they are the tag champs after all. It would have been nice to find that out on Nitro, but they just don't discuss it whatsoever. And also peeling behind the curtain, too, they actually had a dark match against Harlem Heat that same night, but for some reason they didn't feel like that was necessary to put on live television, and the American Males did win that match against Harlem Heat. So yes, they are legitimately the tag champs. Well, that would be great, doing a dark match. At least discuss it or mention it. They didn't. They even kind of nonchalantly mentioned it here in this promo. After that, though, we got the Macho Man versus Taskmaster match. Of course, this is a kind of a grudge match from the Baywatch promo we saw last week, where the Taskmaster interrupted Macho Man doing some bench presses out on the beach. Zodiac all of a sudden shows up after both men are about to get in the ring. Ultimately, that Zodiac interference causes a lot of double teams, and Taskmaster kind of gets the advantage early. From there, it's basically Kevin Sullivan dominating most of the match. Eventually, Macho Man kind of regains control, but by that point, he's kind of lost his mind. He pulls a Zodiac into the ring, and he's like attacking everybody. He ends up throwing the referee and gets DQ'd for it. So, surprisingly, Taskmaster wins by disqualification. Not sure you would have seen that. After that, though, this is really where the important part comes out. The Giant comes out now, representing the Dungeon of Doom. He chokeslams Randy Savage. And then after that, Frankie Lancaster, which I did not catch the name. Kyle, your notes helped me with that first jobber. Came in for a chokeslam, followed by Mark Starr for a chokeslam. And then Alex Wright showed up for a chokeslam as well. And this one bothered me a little bit because they had Alex Wright, win a match to open up the show earlier. Now he's taking a chokeslam.
But you notice, I feel like they're upgrading. They go with the classic jobber. Frankie does not have a wiki page, Lancaster. He gets chokeslammed. Mark Starr comes in. He had a match earlier, another dark match. He actually has a Wikipedia page, so he's a little bit better than Lancaster. He gets chokeslammed. Then Alex Wright comes in. Like, oh, crap, the guy who was on TV, he's actually getting a little bit of a push. Also, did you notice that they called for Lex Luger? They're like, oh, there's Luger. And then Bischoff screwed up and they realized, oh, no, it's Alex Wright.
So I didn't catch that.
They're ruining their own. Yeah, they're ruining their own show. But yeah, they actually said, "Oh, here comes Luger," and then it was Alex Wright.
That's funny.
And then it was Luger.
I didn't catch that. But then, yeah, to your point, Luger shows up, kind of stands over Macho Man. So all of a sudden you're like, oh no, is he with the Dungeon of Doom? Because Macho Man's thought that. And then the Giant turns around and chokeslams Luger, which pissed off the Taskmaster. So kind of curious to see if anything's going to come of that or not, if that was just them trying to kind of give you a thought that maybe Luger is part of the Dungeon of Doom. And as right before they're kind of cutting the commercial and then in the segment, I hear Mongo McMichael say, I don't know what's going on, which I feel like is just a par for the entire duration of Mongo's career.
That should be on his tombstone when he dies.
Absolutely. After that, we get another Halloween Havoc promo. This is one, Kyle, you noted that Vader is pretty much getting beat up in the promo by Hogan, so it might be a dig at Vader, or it could have been just coincidental, but I think you're right, it's more of a dig. And they advertise that this is going to be the first ever sumo truck match. So, again, not sure if this is anything that's interesting to anybody, but apparently they're selling it hard. And,
I mean, and sooner or later, it's going to go from sumo monster truck matches to pinata on a pole match. I mean, it's just, it's all going to come full circle. Trust me. Just you wait.
Yeah, the progression is there for sure. Then after that, we've got Luger, who's still feeling the effects of that chokeslam from the Giant. He's still in the ring, and he's got a match against Ming. And just before the match starts, they mention that Hogan is confirmed for next week's Nitro. And at one point, Heenan, while they're talking about the Giant, says something about Andre the Giant, how he managed Andre the Giant. So that's the first time they've actually called out Andre the Giant, which I thought was interesting. Kyle, what was your thoughts on this match with Ming and Luger, though?
First of all, I love Ming, or Haku, or whoever, however you want to call him. He's always been one of my favorite wrestlers. He's like probably one of the better workers, and he's Samoan, so he's already a badass in real life. For the most part, he's dominating Luger because Luger is still feeling the effects of the chokeslam. And another thing that you'll notice too, and you're going to see it on Raw as well, the old the Samoan nerve pinchy shoulder massage move, which is always like the classic. Like giving both wrestlers kind of like a breather.
It's a nice rest
from the match.
Hold. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. But other than that, the match was whatever. But once again, we're back to the old. I've never seen this person get manhandled like this before. Another one too with this one. Never seen Luger get manhandled like this before. In the end, Luger gets his spots where he's fighting back and fighting back. The ref gets a distraction, and Ming grabs an actual metal spike and hits Luger in the throat with it and gets the pin. Overall, 2 stars at best, as the match has overall was kind of a dud. But I kind of like Luger losing, as it puts his wager for next week even more looming. It makes it more like, oh god, he's not coming in with confidence,
and he's not 100% either because he took a spike to the throat. So
right,
there's a lot on the line there. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few slow spots, but that's Luger and Ming. You're not going to see a whole lot of fast-paced stuff. A couple of strange botches. I think Luger went for a clothesline in the corner, and he fell to the ground. And I would have given it. I think this match probably had the best. Was a 2.5 star, could have been, but it wasn't. I don't think it was the best. I don't think they pulled off everything they could have done. So I'll give it just 2.
Yeah, I gave it a 2.5, and I think it was more for the story of Luger and what it means going forward. I thought Ming did fine, kind of selling the. Being dominant, starting hot in the match. And I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't turn into a Luger comeback, for the win. So I think because of the ending and stuff, I gave it 2.5 myself. Then after that, the show kind of closes out with the commentary group. Pepe's gone again, so he either shows at the beginning or the end, but he's not there for the entire
hey, it's in his contract.
Show.
He's just there to make that appearance at the beginning, dress up in a saddle, and he gets the hell out of there.
That's right. And they just kind of recap next week's show. You got that Luger Macho Man match. You've got Hogan talking, and the American males are going to be there.
And Stinko Malenko.
Oh, that's right. And Kyle, overall thoughts on this Nitro?
It seemed like there was more action this week. I think there's just overall more wrestling. A couple of promos, obviously, but they were very short and sweet. As far as a storyline, a little less developmental this week. Though next week looks like it's going to be a much bigger Nitro with more stakes being added, especially with Luger. Luger and Macho Man had to carry the load for the big stars. There was no Sting, just a video promo with Hogan. So I mean, the matches just seemed like once again, okay matches. The Luger and Meng match was okay. No match tonight was anything to be particularly proud of. And the one thing I had to mention was Nick Patrick needs to go back to reffing school. There were two matches where the wrestlers were either not both in the ring and just fighting it out, or Meng just goes in and starts beating the crap out of Luger, and he just rings the bell. That is poor reffing. Both have to be in their corners in order to ring the bell. And then the Taskmaster Macho Man match, Macho Man wasn't even in the ring when he got attacked, and he rang the bell with not even having the people being in the ring. So Nick Patrick, I really hope that you got a good slap on the wrist for tonight's
Nick Bockwinkel hopefully taking him to school on that one. For me, I thought it was a solid show. Matches were just okay, but I really liked the setup for next week's show. I'm actually got to say, probably next week's show is the most interested I've been in a upcoming Nitro since probably the debut. So looking forward to that.
So you would say that the match itself didn't tell a decent story, but we're hoping that it's
the build-ups and stuff were there.
It's more of a tease. It was more of a tease for next week.
Correct. Yeah. That said, we've got their counterpart Raw, which was live from Grand Rapids. Vince kept saying live. Maybe they were live for this one. I'm not sure. I know sometimes they would go live for Raws, so very possible.
Well, for one, they were both there, so I'd give them credit for that.
Yeah, so the show opens up. You got a recap of the In Your House finish, which, of course, had that big triple header match, which was Owen and Yokozuna putting their tag titles on the line against Diesel and HBK, who were putting up their Intercontinental World titles on the line. Spoiler alert from that In Your House. Basically, Owen couldn't be found the entire show, so Jim Cornette gets British Bulldog to replace Owen, so Bulldog is in the match. Well, then late in the match, Owen shows up and takes a jackknife powerbomb for the pin and loss, so Diesel and Shawn are the champions. Well, that shows that Jim Cornette's fighting it because Owen should not have been part of the match because he was not there when Bulldog took over. So it looked like the ruling is going to be that Owen and Yokozuna are going to get the titles put back on them. After that, we go to the Raw opening. Kyle, you thought it was different music. I think it's still the same music. They just don't have the lyrics playing where you like it raw or something going on. Either way, I still think it's terrible.
It sounds different. Either way, I don't think they've figured out the formula yet. I think this is still the third week in a row where it's not exactly. There's something about it where either the lyrics are missing, maybe a little bit more of like an upbeat like guitar or something like that. Obviously, the video part is the same, but I feel like there are some parts that they're still messing with.
Okay. The surprise for me was pyros. The show opened up. There's a lot of fireworks going off in the arena. Something that we've been commenting that Nitro's been doing that seems just above and beyond Raw. I don't know. Maybe this is pressure. Vince felt a little bit. He needed to up his game from the production department and threw some pyros out there. So I was kind of impressed to see that opening up the show. And then to your point, they open up and they show Lawler and Vince there standing there together. So it's very possible it was live. They're there at the arena. So it definitely had a different feel than some of these pre-produced Raw episodes that we've seen previously.
And I'm thinking that hopefully this means that Lawler is not going to talk over everything this week if it's live.
Yeah, that too. That said, we open up with the return of Marty Jannetty. It doesn't get much more exciting than that. And he's going to be wrestling Skip Donna of the Body Donnas, who is Chris Candido, of course, joined by Sonny. Kyle, what were your thoughts on this match?
So first of all, at the very beginning of the match, Sonny and Skip are already in the ring, and I actually legitimately thought those were two cheerleaders getting the crowd going, and then realizing that Marty Jannetty comes down, and then there's Sonny and Skip, and I'm like, oh, those are actually like people who are wrestling. My bad. But I will say this: when Sonny was at her, the top of her game, oh my god.
Oh yeah,
probably one of the most beautiful women in wrestling. Yeah.
Though of course now she's not. So.
She's aged for sure.
That's putting it nicely, yes.
Yeah, but for those who don't understand about what happened with Marty Jannetty after the whole the barbershop incident, and he kind of disappeared from wrestling for a while. He had a very long stint as not really a stint. I would say he's an alcoholic. He had a very bad drinking problem. He put on some weight. He made his return. He definitely had lost some muscle mass. He has a little bit of a gut. Even worse, I think he was probably even worse than Disco Inferno at this point, especially because he was wearing like a full T-shirt. He wasn't showing off the muscles at all. But you know what? He still got it. He still wrestled very well. And there were definitely a lot of good spots. And it was actually a pretty decent opening match.
So what'd you think? I think he ends up winning. I don't remember what his.
I'm glad you remember this match. So the like even Lawler kind of like shits on Marty about being out of shape, saying his arteries are harder than his muscles.
And I think some of that though was like the Body Donna is supposed to be very. I think they're supposed to be like athletic trainers or something to that effect.
Yeah, they're like professional bodybuilders type of people.
Yeah, I think some of that was why he was trying to say that they don't have the bodies that Skip and Sonny have, which is true. But I do have written down here that he wins with a top rope fist. Basically, he jumps up. And
he hits him he actually hits him with the rocker dropper, which I guess is AKA the Famouser or whatever else you want to call it. Which I thought that was his finisher, but then he went to the top rope and did kind of like a closed fist.
Top rope fist. Yeah.
But the other thing I also noticed too about this match was that Marty really was getting the crowd going. Like I think the crowd was really legitimately entertained by the match.
They were definitely
mainly for the antics.
Into Jannetty for sure. Yeah, he hugs Sonny at one point, which gets a big pop from everybody.
And then Sonny slaps Skip, and I think overall.
I gotta say when Jannetty does hug Sonny, you hear Vince say, "Anything can happen in the WWF," which is again they're going to be their catchphrase that you're going to hear a lot throughout the show. But apparently Jannetty hugging Sonny is one of those can't miss, anything can happen moments.
It could be. So I give it 2.5 stars. I think it was a really good, nice return for Marty Jannetty. I mean, obviously, I don't think really anything happens or comes of Marty Jannetty's return that I remember. Marty doesn't look his best physically, but you can definitely tell that he still knows how to do it. Overall, it was a high octane match, very much similar to how like WCW starts off their matches with something a little bit more faster pace. So overall, I thought it was a very good match from an actual wrestling perspective.
Yeah, only other thing I want to add to that, I got it at a 2.25 star myself, but I did see a sign in the front row of the crowd. It said Nitro ran out of gas. And then below it said something about Raw, but it was the guy was like right by the guardrail, and I can never read the rest of it because he never held it up high enough. But I thought it was funny that there was that's probably the first Nitro bashing sign I've seen.
Hey man, they're at war.
That's true. After this, we get the Clarence Mason promo where he's sitting there ripping into Gorilla Monsoon about a whole tag team match fiasco from the night before. I gotta say, like Clarence Mason sounded very professional, like a legitimate lawyer, and really kind of make Monsoon look like a buffoon, if you will. So Monsoon says, okay, the titles are going back to Yoko and Owen, but now they have to defend them tonight on Raw against the Smoking Guns, because that seems incredibly fair. Why not order a rematch with Shawn and Diesel, but whatever.
Well, I think he did say that at some point in the future they will have to do it, and then also they're going to have to. They already had a match against the Smoking Guns as a non-title match. He said so. At some point, they're going to have to. Diesel and Shawn will get a rematch, and then the match tonight is now going to be for the titles.
Right, and that match happens up next, actually. So we've got Owen and Yoko versus Smoking Guns for the tag team championship. Kyle, we'll kind of talk about this match together. Before the match starts, though, we got Doc Hendricks out there with some chick modeling the triple header in your house T-shirt, and I kind of think this is whole bullshit because they're showing this shirt, and it's a T-shirt for the in your house that happened the night before, and it's advertising. It's got Shawn, it has Diesel on it, and it has Owen and Yoko, and it's talking about all the titles on the line. But that's not the match that happened at this point. Like, Bulldog wrestled 95% of that match. Owen came in for the end. It had a bogus ending. Like, why are they trying to sell this T-shirt? And then on top of it, he says, you buy this T-shirt now and we'll give you a free WWF Classic video cassette. He had literally a blank cassette in his hand.
Labelless VHS.
Yes, so it could have been anything.
Like it was a bootleg, like a bootlegs.
Very bizarre. So that's how before the match
and
starts.
And also, good job, Tammy. Good job modeling the shirt.
There you go. The other thing I noticed is the commercials were just all over the place right here. It looked like they started a commercial as Owen and Yoko were coming out. Then they had a commercial in between, and the smoking guns were in there. It just felt very weirdly timed commercial-wise. If this was a live show, that explains it, that WCW seemed to have their commercial segments down better than the WWF did. If this was a pre-produced tape segment, they really screwed up on their commercials during this show.
But then again, you're talking about like 2 weeks or last week where they went to a commercial while 1-2-3 Kid had a sleeper on Razor. So I mean, it just could be that they're just bad at going to commercial.
Bad at commercial breaks, yeah. So that said, the match. Of course, they cut to Diesel and Shawn in the back watching the match on tiny monitors because that's a staple of the WWF, isn't it? Watching contenders watching other matches.
And also, it just seems like every time you see those two, they just look like just Top Gun, chummy, best buds.
Oh, yeah,
it's almost weird. It's just very like every time you see them, they're always like smiling. One's got like his like arm around the other guy's shoulder. Like, I'm like, dude, we get it. You guys are buds.
It's like cheesy buddies. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's like 90s sitcom best buddies.
This match for me was a pretty good match overall. The story they were telling, Bart Gunn couldn't get the hot tag. He kept trying to get the tag, and Owen and Yoko kind of prevented him from it. Eventually, he would get the tag, and then the match didn't last much longer. After that, all four men in the ring, and at one point they get Yoko and Owen get Irish whipped into each other, which sends Owen flying backwards, which leads to the Smoking Guns tag team top rope leg drop by Billy Gunn. And then they go for the pin, but the ref's getting distracted, so Yoko comes over for the big splash. Bart Gunn, I believe it was, moves, so then Yoko actually splashes Owen, and that leads to the 3 count. And we have new tag team champions, and of course, HBK and Diesel come out to celebrate with them, like, hey, now we got new champions. It seemed kind of unnecessary for them to come out and celebrate, but they did, and that's your match. For me, this was about a 2.5 to 2 3/4 star match. I thought it was a pretty good tag team match. What about you, Kyle?
A couple spots on here that I loved. The Samoan shoulder massage is back because Yokozuna's in the match. They decided to put that in there so Billy could take a little snooze and get his breath back. And also, obviously, Yoko's 600 pounds. He's not going to be running around too much before he needs to take a breath. Vince's classic back body drop was in this match as well. I was actually this is actually a good way for Owen and Yoko to lose the matches. It was like one of those things where it showed a legit way for Yokozuna to screw it up because the combination of both of them in it kind of is. It's weird to lose against that kind of tag team unless something like this happens.
Yeah, they have an interesting dynamic for sure.
Yes, they wrote the ending of this match very, very well. I think I give it 2 3/4 stars because I think the ending was actually done very well. And like you said before with Diesel and Shawn, I think we were kind of talking about last week about how where was Diesel and Shawn during like the MOM and Owen and Yokozuna match, and it's like they could have been out there for a little bit of TV time, and then it's almost like they're making up for it in this Raw because they are everywhere in this Raw. And it starts with this match, and you'll see them later on as well. But as far as the match itself, I say 2 3/4. Like I said, 2.5 I'd be fine with, but I think the scripted ending was done perfectly, and that's why I'll give the extra quarter star.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I do think that they're very oversaturated in this show, but that said, crowd seemed way into the Guns, happy for them to win. After that, we get a promo for next week's Raw. It's Razor Ramon versus 1-2-3 Kid, and Bret Hart versus my boy Jean-Pierre Lafitte, the Pirate. And apparently Raw is a rematch next week because that's rematches from previous Raws and the In Your House and stuff, but that's what they're promoting. After this, we get Doc Hendricks walking out, and he's promoting In Your House 4, which is from the Great White North, which is it's a common term we're going to hear a lot going forward, I think. Winnipeg, Canada there. And he starts announcing the card, and he says, King Mabel's going to wrestle The Undertaker. Goldust will be making his debut. And Gorilla Monsoon comes out there and tells him that he's got a very special match. British Bulldog is going to get, for the first time ever, a WWF Championship match against Diesel. And why? Because just the British Bulldog wanted it, so Monsoon granted it. Apparently that's all it takes to be the number one contender. And he follows it up by saying Bret Hart will be the number one contender for the winner of that match at Survivor Series the following month. And then also Shawn Michaels is going to be wrestling Dean Douglas for the Intercontinental Championship. To me, this entire card makes zero sense from a storyline perspective because literally they just put 5 matches together. None of those people have been crossing paths other than Bulldog came into the that 4-way triple header match in place of Owen. There's nothing here that makes any sense to me.
Well, you got to remember at SummerSlam, Bulldog turned on Diesel. So
that's true. It was it at SummerSlam or it was the Raw before SummerSlam that it happened? But I think he turned on him just before SummerSlam, but I do remember that.
I know it was before. I know it was before the first Raw that we watched from the new season. So I thought they were recapping SummerSlam completely, and so maybe it was the Raw before. It was either the Raw before or it was at SummerSlam when it happened. But yes, I agree. Taker and Mabel, basically, they both wear purple. That's the only thing they have in common. Goldust will be interesting because it'll be his first match. And, I guess Michaels and Dean Douglas, Michaels and Razor are friends, and now he's going to fight the other member of the Clique, I guess, maybe? I think they were trying the Clique overall. I think they have been trying to get Dean over, trying to help his career, I think, a little bit. Right. And like I said, I don't know too many dirt sheets about it, but I think that might have been one of the reasons why Dean Douglas is in this match, because he had that victory against Razor Ramon at the In Your House. He's he's a little bit on fire, and if you beat somebody prolific like Razor Ramon, you've got to be up there in discussions because Razor was the former IC champion. So for that case, yeah, it might not be good from a storyline perspective, but Dean Douglas is definitely moving up in the rankings in the card, and so him being a number 1 contender for the IC title, I can't argue against that.
All right. After that, though, then we got The Undertaker versus the British Bulldog, who Bulldog was walking out during this. He kind of cut around him. It felt like just like somebody poorly planned those entrances.
Hey, it's live, remember?
Yeah, they're still working out the kinks there. I got to say, Earl Hebner was scared of The Undertaker, actually ran outside of the ring. So I feel like that's not fitting of a referee to be scared of the talent. They should have they should be the ring generals, the ones in control. I think Nick Patrick and Earl Hebner both need to be reschooled in the art of being a referee myself. So the match starts, and then shortly into the match, King Mabel and Sir Mo are spotted on the entrance near the entrance ramp. Of course, this makes sense because King Mabel and Undertaker have a newly announced match at this upcoming In Your House. So, of course, he's kind of taking notes, scoping out his soon-to-be opponent. And then they go to commercial and they cut back, and the match is going on. And then Waylon Mercy is shown watching the match. Why? Why is Waylon Mercy out there? What does he have anything to do with anything, Kyle? Can you help me answer that one?
I actually forgot. I was going to look it up and see, because they made him know, there's Waylon. Because Waylon Mercy fought who at the In Your House? Was it Savio Vega?
Yes, I believe it was Savio Vega, because I was trying to remember the same thing, and I've actually pulled it up. I meant to have that pulled up. And yes, Savio Vega defeated Waylon Mercy at In Your House 3.
Okay, so basically Waylon Mercy is coming into this Raw with no momentum, no real story that we know of. I mean, we've been watching the Raws.
Not listed on the next card.
He hasn't been on any Raws since we've been watching Raw, and here we are with him watching this match. I don't know.
Against two people who both are already tied up in storylines for the next In Your House. Taker's fighting Mabel, Bulldog's fighting Diesel. If Diesel was the other one they showed, watching the match, okay, that makes sense. Diesel's scoping out British Bulldog. But why is Waylon fucking Mercy out there? It made no sense to me at all.
No, it didn't. It made no sense to me. But I was trying to, I saw it, and they were like, "Oh, there's Waylon Mercy," and once again, that's just Vince just overdoing. He's either a 2 or a 12 when he responds to things, and I have no idea. Maybe I'll do a little bit more research on it afterwards. But that was really bizarre.
Yeah, and if any of you guys listeners out there know why Waylon Mercy was here, please let us know, because it's kind of a head scratching moment for me, and that's saying a lot because we know. We're watching WCW and WWF in '95. There's a lot of booking decisions that are head scratchers. This one's a little strange to me. Because then after that, he doesn't do anything else. We go back to the match. It's pretty good storytelling. They kind of work Bulldog works a lot on Taker's legs, trying to take down the big man. Taker sells it really well. And, it's nice to see Taker in 95 doing Taker-like things, old school walking the ropes and just very athletic. And Bulldog drops a pile driver, which I haven't seen a pile driver in so long. It was nice to see that as well.
Didn't we see that's actually not true. You saw Ming pile drive Luger. There was a pile driver on Nitro as well.
Okay, well, Bulldogs looked a lot better.
Ming's was pretty. I think they both looked as good, to be honest. They both looked okay.
Needless to say, the match is going okay. Eventually, of course, Mabel interferes, and Taker's going to win by DQ. This, of course, leads to Mabel and Bulldog just pummeling Undertaker, which eventually leads to Shawn and Diesel coming out, entering the ring, kind of clearing things up. Then Yoko and Owen run out. And then the Smoking Guns, for whatever reason, decide that they're going to come out. A lot of chaos.
Did you notice that Bart Gunn came out, looked like he just had soap all over his chest?
No, I did not see that.
No, the first time
they called him from the showers?
Yeah, it was almost like he was in the middle of shampooing his hair, and they're like, "We need you to run down." He ran out and put on his jeans, and he's having a hard time putting them on because he's soaked, and he's just trying to put denim on a wet body, and then he just kind of runs out I don't know. Like I said, he either looked like he got bukkakied on or he was in the shower when they told him to go down to the ring. It just looked really funny. But yeah, it was, I don't know. It was kind of weird with that whole setup with them all being out there. I was actually waiting for Waylon Mercy to come out too.
Right? Yeah. What Waylon just watching like a creep apparently.
And once again, maybe that's his shtick. Maybe he does watch matches,
possibly maybe that
Edge, like he's Edge before Edge,
right?
Where he was maybe he comes out from the crowd when he has matches.
It's possible. For me, this is a 2.5-star match. I mean, I thought Bulldog and Taker both good workers. I think given the limited time that they had, this match was pretty good. Wasn't crazy about the ending, but I kind of saw it coming myself.
I think it's 2 stars, and the reason why I say that, I think it could have been a 2.5-star match if it wasn't for the fact that I think the match itself got overshadowed by the extracurriculars after the match. I kind of forgot what happened with the match.
Well, let's talk about those extracurriculars because, of course, everybody comes out, and then they promote the WrestleMania 11 the special, which is going to be shown this week, so that'll probably be the last time we'll hear about that.
And once again, they still haven't really explained what that is.
They haven't told us what it is. Right. They just talk about matches that happen there. So we don't know whether it's the full card, if it's a couple matches, what it is.
Or if it's extra commentary. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Who knows? After that, though, we come back from commercial. We've got a lot of handshakes going on with all the baby faces in the ring, and Diesel's music's playing for whatever reason. Why not? And then I think they go to commercial and they come back, and the ring is empty. And then Shawn and Diesel walk into the ring. They come up the stairs into the ring. Shawn's music starts playing, and he's dancing around to it for a while. Apparently just giving the Click a lot of airtime at this point. And then out of nowhere, they recap the Razor and Dean from In Your House, Dean Douglas from the In Your House 3, where Razor drops the Razor's Edge, but the ref's distracted. Kid comes out and gives the 3 count for whatever reason, so Razor thinks he won. Turn around, sees Kid there. It's a little bit of a strange ending, but it's trying to push that Razor 1, 2, 3 Kid a little bit more. Obviously, they talk about that. Then they've got a match next week. Cuts back, and Shawn's music is still playing, and him and Diesel are in the ring just doing buddy things.
Posing and doing buddy stuff, yeah.
Went on incredibly long. What a long, random way to end Raw.
When you were watching this, did you notice that, because when you watch WWE Network, which, by the way, I think we keep on forgetting, for those that are watching this, the best way to watch our podcast is to, if you have the WWE Network, make sure you watch the Nitro and Raw, and then listen to our podcast.
Absolutely. It makes so much more sense. You can kind of understand where we're coming from in commentary and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. They should do that.
And or also it gives you the opportunity you could pause while you listen to our commentary and then hit play. So you have the ability on the WWE Network to click on the little kind of dots on the slider, and it usually gives the beginning of the match and then the end of the match. Did you notice that at the end of that match, when the finish quote unquote happened with the match, there is 8 minutes of nothing, it's blank. It's almost like
No.
the ending of the match was 8 minutes long, which it wasn't. It was just nothing else happened.
Nothing else happened, right? No, I didn't. And the reason I didn't is I've been the last couple episodes I've been watching by casting from my phone to the television. And when you do that, you don't have the luxury of dots, where like when I watch it on my computer or something, I do. But yeah, this was just, for me, this Raw was just okay. I thought the matches were better, but you have Undertaker and Bulldog, and you had 8 minutes of bullshit afterwards that were pointless. Like, you could have made that match a lot better. You could have added a fourth match to this card.
Do you think this also, once again, had to do with the fact that maybe they haven't gotten the whole live things figured out?
If it was live, yes, that could have been part of it, and they just realized, oh, we don't have enough time. Just send the click out there to run around with the crowd, and we'll talk over it.
Dance around and pander for a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
So that was kind of it. It was nice. That's the first time we saw a title change on Raw since we started watching. I'm sure it's happened previously on Raw. But ultimately for me, Kyle, I wanted to say I thought Raw was the better show, but I think Raw just had the better matches. I think overall Nitro made better use of their time. They had a better production from commercial breaks, things like that standpoint. And to me, they got me excited for next week. I am more looking forward to Nitro's next week with the Macho Man Luger match, as well as Hogan and what he has to say, than I am to see Razor and 1-2-3 Kid wrestle again, and to see Hart and Jean-Pierre fight again. For me, I think I'm going to actually give the edge to Nitro this week. How about you?
You know what? Now after hearing you say that, now I'm feeling a little bit more conflicted. I put on my notes, I think Raw won this week overall. I think overall, I think maybe the storytelling was maybe petered out a little bit this week. Not as good as last week. I think they were progressing some of the storyline. The only thing that I was hoping that would come out of this was that maybe they would make Bulldog look good. Because now that he is now the number one contender, I would have loved to see him come out of that match looking a little bit better than he did.
I thought he looked all right, though. I mean, even in the disqualification, he helped beat the crap out of Taker after the fight and stuff like that. So, and he put up. I thought it was a decent match between the two of them. So I didn't think it wasn't like he was done for and got saved by Mabel. I don't think it was that bad.
Right, and I think the Smoking Guns match really made up for a very chaotic, what seemed like a very unorganized Raw. And I also believe that WCW, the star power was once again spread kind of thin again.
Agree with you there, yeah.
And so I think if I would almost say this would be a draw, but if I had to lean to one side or the other, I think Raw's show was more entertaining. I think I'm looking more forward to Nitro next week, though. I do agree with that. But I think from watching both of them, from the Mario Jannetty match, I think maybe the reason why we might be talking a little bit more shit about Raw is that I think towards the end of the card, I think it started to sputter out a little bit.
It ended poorly,
really
for
good.
Sure. Yeah, it started hot and just fizzled out.
Right. So I mean, maybe when you were done watching Raw, you were like, yeah, all right, that was Raw. Whereas Nitro, you were much more intrigued with what was going to happen next week.
Can't wait till next week. Yep. That said, Nielsen ratings, Nitro went up to a 2.7. If you remember, they were down to a 1.9 last week, so big jump for them. Meanwhile, Raw drops from a 2.7 to a 1.9. So looks like that difference. It looks like the fan base of wrestling fans is about the same from last week. They just tuned into Nitro instead of Raw. So
which once again, isn't that weird that happened again with the Nitro went down when it was the Nitro after a pay-per-view.
And
you think you'd want to watch
Raw
Nitro
after a pay-per-view, yeah.
And once again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody who knows more about wrestling thinks that, okay, the pay-per-view just happened, so now we're starting at the beginning with maybe creating new storylines, so it's not as interesting because everything already crescendoed, so now everything's kind of building up again. Because, yeah, I think the more interesting Raws and Nitros, unless you're talking about WrestleManias, because obviously the Raw after WrestleMania for the last many years has always been one of the better Raws of the year. But back then, if it was a non-consequential in your house or a smaller pay-per-view, maybe the Raw afterwards wasn't as, or the Nitro after maybe not being as interesting. as the match or the cards right before going into a pay-per-view. So maybe that's the reason why the numbers are a little bit lower.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd think that with the controversy of the finish in the triple header, as well as when Hogan got a neck snap, that more people would want to tune in to see what happened, but I guess not. That said, looking forward to next week's Raw Nitro, and looking forward to having you guys here with us as we break down the next week's Nitro and Raw. So don't forget to give us a follow on iTunes or Google Play, whatever you are, your preferred use of services there. Feel free to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Monday Night Tour or Monday Night Tours, depending on where you're looking for us there. We'll have all of our information there, and you can leave us feedback. Let us know what you think about the show, what you want to hear, what you want to see, and anything else. And always go to MondayNightTours.com if you need to find any of those accounts as well. That said, don't forget to watch the October 2nd 95 editions. And we'll be back to review those next week. For Kyle Hoagland, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Tuesday, and see ya.